This is Arkies in the Beltway, your look at national politics and the Arkansans influencing the discussions. I'm Alex Thomas, Washington correspondent for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, reporting from the nation's capital. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Arkies in the Beltway for the week of September 29th, 2024. The man in black, now in bronze. Arkansans joining congressional leaders, Arkansas lawmakers, and members of Johnny Cash's family for a ceremony unveiling a new statue of the Arkansan on Capitol Hill. The statue, located in the Capitol Visitor Center, Cash, the first musician to be recognized with representation in the National Statuary Hall collection. House of Representatives Speaker Mike Johnson says Cash is deserving of this honor.
Our nation is one that's comprised of the stories of the American people. All of this is about we the people. And Johnny Cash gave a voice to the struggles of the people who were downtrodden and marginalized and who were too often forgotten and hopeless.
State legislatures and governors have authority on determining the people to recognize in the National Statuary Hall collection, with every state allowed to send 2 statues to Washington, D.C. Arkansas leaders in April 2019 agreed to replace existing statues of Uriah Rose and James Paul Clark with sculptures honoring Cash and civil rights leader Daisy Bates. The Bates statue was unveiled back in May, taking place of the Rose statue in National Statuary Hall near the House chamber. Cash's daughter, singer-songwriter Roseanne Cash, on her father and Bates, representing the natural state in the nation's capital.
There is something beautifully symmetrical about Johnny Cash and civil rights icon Daisy Bates sharing representation of the great state of Arkansas.
Little Rock sculptor Kevin Cressy was responsible for crafting the Cash statue. Cash stands just under 11 feet when standing on his pedestal, made of limestone from Eureka Springs. Cash, with a guitar on his back and a Bible in his hand, his head tilted downward, looking at those passing by him. On one side of the pedestal, lyrics from the song Man in Black, the 1971 tune where Cash explains he wears black for those people he believed society ignores. On the other, a Cash quote, "All your life you will be faced with a choice. You can choose love or hate. I choose love." Representative Steve Womack of Rogers during Tuesday's ceremony.
In this statue, Kevin, I can actually see the gravel in his gut and the spit in his eye.
Cash was born in February 1932 in Kingsland, but he spent most of his childhood in the Mississippi Delta community of Dyes. Cash would become a legend with songs like Ring of Fire, I Walk the Line, and the song Womack referenced, A Boy Named Sue. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffrey says Cash's catalog includes powerful works representing several styles of music.
Before Jay-Z dropped the Black Album, hip-hop supergroup NWA wore black LA Raiders baseball caps, or the pioneering heavy metal rock band Black Sabbath emerged on the scene, Johnny Cash was the man in black. His substance, his swagger, and his style inspired generations of artists from every genre imaginable.
Senator John Bozeman of Rogers says recognizing Cash in the National Statuary Hall collection is a long overdue honor.
It's been said that Johnny Cash, though he came from a little town in Arkansas, knew how to talk to all of America. And his catalog, in essence, tells the story of our country.
Representative Rick Crawford of Jonesboro only needed one word to describe Cash: classic.
So what is a classic? It's a great way to describe Johnny Cash, but I decided to look up the word just to be sure I was using it appropriately. And of course, as you can guess, there are multiple definitions of the word classic. Of the first or highest quality, class, or rank, serving as a standard, model, or guide, of or adhering to an established set of artistic standards or methods, basic, fundamental, of enduring interest, quality, or style, of literary, historical renown, traditional or typical, definitive. However one chooses to define Johnny Cash, his life, his work, his legacy, clearly classic is an appropriate description.
Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders also spoke at Tuesday's ceremony. Lieutenant Governor Leslie Rutledge, Attorney General Tim Griffin, and Secretary of State John Thurston among the Arkansas state leaders attending the event. Senators and House members away from Capitol Hill until after the November election, lawmakers using October to campaign back in their states and districts ahead of November 5th. Before the Senate and House adjourned, there was some unfinished business. Both chambers passed a continuing resolution to fund the government through December 20th, avoiding a government shutdown that would have happened Monday, the last day of the current fiscal year. Wednesday's votes followed two attempts by House Republicans to couple a 6-month stopgap measure with legislation to require proof of citizenship to register to vote in federal elections. House Republicans unable to build enough support within their own conference to pass this proposal. Representative French Hill of Little Rock supported the 3-month continuing resolution, as did Crawford and Womack. Representative Bruce Westerman of Hot Springs voted against the legislation. Hill says when Congress returns to Washington on November 12th, both chambers need to pass all 12 annual appropriations bills, something the Senate and House have struggled to accomplish.
It would be my hope that we could get that work done this year and turn the page on the Congress and welcome a new president on January 20th.
In the Senate, Senator Bozeman supported the continuing resolution. Senator Tom Cotton of Little Rock missed votes throughout last week. A spokesperson telling the Democrat-Gazette that Cotton was attending to a personal matter. Bozeman will use his recess period trying to forge a path on passing a new farm bill. The Senate and House unable to pass such legislation before leaving Capitol Hill, Congress approves farm bills on a cycle, authorizing programs covering nutrition assistance, agriculture, and rural development. The most recent farm bill became law back in December 2018. Bozeman says Republicans and Democrats know they need to act, and they need to do it soon.
The problem is this is a 5-year commitment to our farmers. It's a 5-year contract. It's not a 1 year. It's 5 years. Who knows what the world's going to look like. But if we don't give them something that works, something that really will make a significant difference with them dealing with risk, helping with trade, helping with research that makes them more productive. Conservation's important. But if we don't do those things, if we don't make that investment, then it's simply not worth doing.
The senator also calling on Congress to approve emergency assistance for producers dealing with mounting financial pressure. Bozeman, in a September 17th floor speech, warned colleagues if Congress does nothing, it could result in farmers across the country having to cease their operations. Election season is in full swing. Arkansans have until October 7th to register to vote. The Democrat-Gazette with coverage of this year's races. You can read about the candidates running in Arkansas's 4 House of Representatives districts at arkansasonline.com/election. And that'll do it for this edition of Arkies in the Beltway for the week of September 29th, 2024. You can stay up to date with all news involving Arkansas at arkansasonline.com. You can get in touch with me on social media. My handle is at Alex House Thomas. Special thanks, as always, to the team down in Little Rock. I'm Alex Thomas, and this has been Arkies in the Beltway. We leave you with some of the U.S. Air Force Band's performance of I Walk the Line from last Tuesday's Johnny Cash statue ceremony. As always, thank you for listening.
I keep a close watch on this heart of mine. I keep my eyes wide open all the time. I keep the ends out for the tie that binds. Because you're mine, I walk the line. Because you're mine.